Imagine receiving a call from your child, only to find out that your worst nightmare has come true. Your beloved daughter, a college student with so much promise and so much ahead of her, is found murdered in her own apartment. No signs of forced entry, no obvious clues, just a horrific scene that would leave anyone wondering, how could this happen? What went wrong? And more chillingly, who could have done this? This is the story of Faith Hedgepeth, a 19-year-old college student at the University of North Carolina. A young woman who had a bright future ahead of her. A daughter, a friend, a student who was tragically taken from this world in a way that has left her loved ones and the entire community searching for answers. For nearly a decade, the murder of Faith Hedgepeth remained unsolved, haunting both her family and the town of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. The question remained, who killed Faith Hedgepeth and why? Faith Hedgepeth was a bright and ambitious young woman. Born in 1993 in Durham, North Carolina, Faith was the oldest of three sisters in a family that was close-knit and supportive. Raised by a single mother, Faith was always determined to make her family proud. She excelled academically in high school and was accepted into the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, one of the most prestigious universities in the country. At UNC, Faith was studying biology and had dreams of becoming a pediatrician. She was a passionate advocate for her community, often helping others, and she worked hard to maintain a balance between her studies and social life. Faith was well liked by her friends and peers, known for her caring personality and infectious laughter. But her life was abruptly cut short. On the evening of September 6, 2012, Faith Hedgepeth went out with friends. She had been enjoying a night of fun at a local bar in Chapel Hill, and it seemed like just another college night out. Faith was known to be responsible, and by all accounts, she had been in good spirits throughout the evening. However, what should have been a carefree night would quickly turn into a nightmare. Faith returned to her apartment at 5:30 a.m. on September 7, 2012, after the night out. Her roommate, a fellow UNC student, had already gone to bed. That was the last time anyone would see Faith alive. Later that morning, her roommate woke up to a horrifying scene. Faith's body was found in her bedroom, brutally murdered. She had been sexually assaulted and beaten, left lifeless on her bed in a pool of blood. There were no signs of forced entry into the apartment, and nothing appeared to be stolen. What made the crime even more unsettling was the note left on the nearby table. A piece of paper with the words, "I will make it right," was scrawled in black ink. The writing seemed deliberate, yet it didn't offer any clear insight into the identity of the killer. Was this a random act of violence, or did Faith know her attacker? This cryptic message would only add to the mystery that surrounded her murder. The murder of Faith Hedgepeth shocked the entire community of Chapel Hill. Police immediately launched an investigation, but they were faced with a number of challenges. There were no obvious suspects, and with no forced entry into the apartment, it was unclear how the perpetrator had gained access. Police quickly ruled out robbery as a motive, as nothing appeared to be missing from Faith's apartment. As days turned into weeks, investigators scoured Faith's life looking for clues. They interviewed her friends, her family, and anyone who might have had contact with her. They also investigated her personal life and her relationships to see if there was anyone who might have had a motive to harm her. But as the investigation continued, a troubling reality began to set in. The case was going cold. Enemies, and her family and friends were adamant that she was not involved in any dangerous activities. As time passed, police began to focus their attention on a few possible suspects. One of the most prominent theories centered on Faith's ex-boyfriend, who had reportedly been involved in an on-and-off relationship with her. He had been questioned multiple times by police, but there was no direct evidence to tie him to the murder. He was eventually ruled out as a suspect, though that the possibility of a romantic dispute remained a point of contention. Another possibility that investigators considered was the idea of a random act of violence. Chapel Hill, despite its peaceful reputation, was not immune to the presence of dangerous individuals. Yet, this theory seemed unlikely given the absence of forced entry and the specific targeting of Faith. As months stretched into years, the case began to fade from the headlines, but it was far from forgotten by Faith's family, friends, and the public. The haunting question remained: who was responsible for taking Faith's life? After years of investigative dead ends, the case was finally brought back into the spotlight in 2016. The Chapel Hill Police Department, along with the FBI, decided to revisit the case with new forensic techniques. They took another look at the evidence, specifically the DNA recovered from the crime scene. This time, the evidence pointed to a possible suspect, but it wasn't who anyone had expected. The DNA found at the scene matched Raymond Clark III, a former custodian at the University of North Carolina. Clark had previously been questioned in the case, but he had not been considered a serious suspect until now. It was a chilling revelation. Clark had been working at the university at the time of Faith's murder, and while he had been in close proximity to the crime scene, no one had ever considered him a prime suspect. He had a history of obsessive behavior, and his interactions with Faith were now under scrutiny. The discovery of his DNA at the scene gave new life to the case, and many began to wonder how long Clark had been hiding in plain sight. In 2021, after years of legal battles, Raymond Clark III was arrested and charged with the murder of Faith Hedgepeth. The evidence against him was damning. DNA, witnesses, and a history of inappropriate behavior toward women all pointed to him as the likely perpetrator. But Clark denied any involvement in Faith's death, claiming that the DNA found at the scene was planted. The trial was filled with dramatic moments. Clark's defense team argued that the evidence was circumstantial and that there was not enough proof to convict him of murder. But prosecutors painted a picture of a man who had stalked, manipulated, and ultimately killed Faith. After a lengthy trial, Raymond Clark III was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted in applause as Faith's family finally received the justice they had been fighting for all these years. Faith Hedgepeth's murder has left a permanent mark on the community of Chapel Hill. It took years for justice to be served, but Faith's family never gave up. Their resilience and determination were a driving force behind the investigation and the eventual conviction of Raymond Clark III. But the case also raised important questions about campus safety and the vulnerabilities students face, even in the most seemingly secure environments. Faith's tragic death serves as a reminder that we must always remain vigilant, both for ourselves and for those we love. Faith's story may have had a tragic ending, but it is also a testament to the power of persistence and the search for justice. It's a story of a family's unwavering love for their daughter and the lengths they were willing to go to in order to find the truth. Let this case remind us that justice, while sometimes delayed, is always worth fighting for. If you found this case as chilling and haunting as we did, don't forget to subscribe to Shadow of Crime Chronicles for more true crime stories. Let's continue uncovering the dark side of human nature, and remember, justice always finds a way to surface, no matter how long it takes.